So good afternoon and welcome to today's Business as Usual. This is our 20th work day in a row. It's hard to believe that this time has flown by. I'm Audrey Rousseau and I'm President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. And I am joined today by my co-host of Tech Vibe Radio and many other things, and as well as his role as Vice President of Visibility, Jonathan Kirsting. So a few things about today's call. First, nothing is possible without our sponsors. We've had great sponsors for this entire series, and that is Huntington Bank. They're our good friends, and they have really stepped up to sponsor this series. And if you don't know about Huntington, they are actually the largest SBA lender here in Southwestern Pennsylvania. Their team has been and is continuing to provide tremendous support for the community, and the work that they're doing now, it could not be more critical. And I also want to give thanks to the team at AT&T for their support of our public policy series and more. But more importantly, their support that they have provided to the broader community during this entire pandemic. Last week, AT&T announced a $5.5 million donation to Feeding America, which in part benefits the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, and they have also supported the East End Cooperative Ministries Community Food Program and the team at 412 Food Rescue for $10,000. So we really appreciate our sponsors. So as a quick programming note, for next Monday and next Monday only, we're going to have this call at 1 p.m. Why? Because we have an opportunity to host Dr. Louis Falo, Chair of Dermatology at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, and he is one of the remarkable leaders working to develop a vaccine and breakthrough vaccine delivery system to literally help save the world. So I hope you understand why we have moved the program to 1 o'clock. The next day, Tuesday, we will be back to normal at 12, and we have Senator Bob Casey joining us. So while we're talking about scheduling, I need to alert you to an issue relative to the scheduling of these calls. When we first launched the series, we initially envisioned this as a 30-day series. For that reason, our initial calendar invite for many of you fell off the calendar after Wednesday's program. Brian Kennedy from our team has sent out a second confirmation to everyone as of yesterday morning. So if you open that email, you can add this to your calendar. So, okay, a little bit for the format for today's call. We have muted your microphones. I will ask that you keep your microphones on mute just because of the background noise that many of us have. We want to ensure that we can hear our guests today very clearly. So with that said, we want this call to be interactive. So you will note that there's a chat box at the bottom of your desktop screen. And if you have questions, all you need to do is just type your name and your company, and we will hopefully get to your questions. So with that, I would like to bring on today's guest, Leah Lizarondo, co-founder and CEO of 412 Food Rescue. If you have not heard about them before, we're going to do a deep dive with them today, but you really need to pay attention to the work that she's doing and her team. So hello, and thank you for being with us.
Hi. Happy to be here.
So how about we set the stage and just give our listeners a quick background on 412 Food Rescue, how it works, why you founded it, and just take it from there.
Yeah, so 412 Food Rescue was founded in 2015 as a direct response to the fact that, we waste 40% of our food supply, while so many on the other side, as we know, are food insecure. And what we did was, we basically rescued food from grocery stores, restaurants, and institutions like Carnegie Mellon, and workplaces such as Duolingo, and took surplus food every day and delivered those to nonprofits that serve people who are experiencing food insecurity. And the way we do it is through an app called Food Rescue Hero, which we developed to coordinate thousands of drivers that do these deliveries every day. So a little bit like, DoorDash, except it was delivering to nonprofits instead of households. So and in this COVID-19 today, we just announced that we are now able to deliver to households. So a true
Oh,
household, like
wow.
home delivery model.
So how does that work? Explain a little bit how that works in terms of how you sign up and how people actually register and then receive the food.
Yeah, so we still work through nonprofit partners. So
Okay.
if you are an individual who is homebound and typically receiving food from a food pantry, we would work with your food pantry so that we can deliver food through you. Individuals can't register on our app by themselves.
Okay, great. So you have to really rely on a lot of partners, which I'm sure is, is exciting for all of us in terms of volunteering, but it's probably pretty tricky.
Yeah, I mean, the volunteers will get the alerts on their app. So if you want to do something good today and deliver to someone in need, there's something to do for sure.
One thing I can say, Audrey, that we really need to get out is that it's so easy to sign up for this. So I signed up for it last week because I've been talking to Leah for years and years and years about this and always been inspired, but I never signed up for some reason. But now with the situation the way it is, I'm like, no, I'm signing up because I want to deliver some food. And so I went and I signed up. It took like 3 minutes. And you get a confirmation, you ping it, and then you're in the system. Here's the problem I'm having right now, and this is a good problem to have, right? Every time I see that there's a delivery available, excuse me, it gets taken immediately. It's like I can't swipe fast enough to get it. So I can really see your army of volunteers is coming together, and so it's just awesome. And I think if everyone can put it on their phone, it's just going to help spread it out, and it's so simple and easy to do.
Right. We do have an extra step for home delivery that's not the same as just delivering to a nonprofit, and that's a background check. So for the first time, we are instituting some background check mechanism for home deliveries for obvious reasons. So you will probably get an email about this, if not today, this weekend.
Okay. Cool.
That's
Excellent.
great.
It's just saying it works.
So you've actually grown outside of the 412 area code rather quickly. Can you talk about how much food you've saved and how many cities that your app is actually deployed?
Right. So at the end of 2018, we started licensing the technology to other food rescue organizations. And today we are in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Northern Virginia, and then soon we're going to launch in Vancouver. And collectively, all of these cities have, along with 412, recovered about 12 to 13 million pounds of food.
That's incredible. That's
a
incredible.
lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff.
Where do you see other cities? How are you seeing interest from other cities, and has it escalated during this period of the pandemic?
Yeah, it's absolutely escalated. We've been receiving more and more calls to make our app available. And so what we're trying to do right now, because currently we do have a white labeling model, but now we're building a national app that anyone can access. So that's what we're raising support for. And our development team is extremely busy creating that right now to make it hopefully available by the summer.
Well, the community here has really rallied around your organization recently. Can you talk about ways that people have already helped you, and then share some of the thoughts on how the tech sector can be of even greater assistance?
Yeah, so I mean, the community has helped in many different ways. Just most recently, PMI Digital, which is a tech council member, just offered to do our video and for the home delivery, and they did that in a week, and it was created for us, donated by them, and it communicates the key messages for that program really clearly and in a great way. So that's one real kind of help that's making a big difference. Financial support is always the best way. Every nonprofit says this. We have the people to do the work. There's some resources that we need to do. We are currently outsourcing some of this development work because we need to do it in an accelerated way. You'll probably, some of the development firms will probably see an RFP from us, if not probably next week, to help develop that national app. So that RFP is going out, and we hope to have some really good proposals that can deliver fairly quickly.
So what are some of your financial needs? Is there a number that we should be rallying around to help you achieve?
It's the need right now is pretty infinite. As with any software development, the more resources, the more development we can do. If you can imagine, we have the same product feature backlog as any software development firm or software provider, and the more resources we have, the faster we can get through those and create a more efficient service.
And so talk a little bit about the volunteers, like themselves, like how easy it is and why perhaps this really is the new way of volunteering.
Yeah, so in this environment of isolation and distancing, it's very hard to volunteer in more traditional ways, as I call it, because more traditional ways require people to congregate in one place. This one is, a solitary, completely safe way to volunteer. You basically, and it's no contact, you basically do it by yourself, or maybe someone from your household can help you. But you go to a food pantry or another food donor. The food is waiting for you outside with a pair of single-use gloves. You take the food with the gloves, and then you get in your car, and then you basically go to whoever you're dropping off to, put on your gloves, deliver the food, discard the gloves. That's it. And you know that you've made an impact that day.
Absolutely. So cool. So cool.
Incredible.
So Leah, what I've found so interesting is how fast you've been able to pivot and react. Because I mean, obviously in just less than 30 days, just the need just spiked, and you've been able to follow that spike. What's that been like?
Yeah, I mean, so ever since the beginning, we've been always, our philosophy has always been agile, right? It's through and through, from, how we develop technology to how we design programs. And really, it's an advantage of being a small organization. There's no bureaucracy that we have to go through. There's
Right.
The buck stops with everyone at 412. And I always tell the team, think of what the MVP is. And once you think of what the MVP is, go one step lower, and there's going to be a minimum viable product, and go for that one and just launch it, see what happens. And we can always, iterate and improve. It's like, there's no barriers. You think of, the minimum things you can do, the minimum things you can do to watch out for things that might go wrong, and then just go. And then if it doesn't work, take it off, and then if it does work, then let's figure out how to scale it slowly.
And so, let's reel back. I mean, who would have thought that there was a pandemic that would have occurred when you were thinking about founding this company? What was the original vision, and how has that shifted, if it has at all?
So the original vision really, it responds to two gaps. One is that food waste gap. And then on the logistics side, it's really the failings of a hub and spoke model when we're trying to reach people that are in need. And it's extremely analogous to what's happening to retail in general. It's like people want convenience. I want convenience. I get most of my stuff delivered. And that's, because the realities of my life is it's moving too fast. I have, children, many jobs, like so much to do. And that desire for convenience and the ability to not be so mobile is true as well for populations in need. So our philosophy has always been, why not offer the same convenience? If we really want to serve people who need food, then let's get the food to them and not wait for them or put the unnecessary burden that sometimes is impossible to go somewhere to get food. I mean, if you just imagine a food box for a senior, it's very heavy. So when we talk about designing services, human-centered design, all of these things that really enable access really need to be considered. So that's really the other part of 412 is not just the waste, it's the logistics and really understanding how to get food to people. And this pandemic has only accelerated much of the things that we've always wanted to do.
So, given your career up to date till 412 Food Rescue, you could have done a lot of other different things, right?
I mean, it's just like everyone.
Yeah, but I mean, you even took a personal pivot, but what you bring to 412 Food Rescue is really sort of your experience, up to that point. So could you frame that for people, just to sort of talk a little bit about what your journey was professionally?
Yeah, so my background is really in consumer goods. So it's, in the 2000s, that was called classical marketing. And it's really, consumer goods has always been about human-centered design. HCD is just a new way to say that, guys, you need to really know your consumer. I started out at Colgate-Palmolive in product management, and I really value that experience so much. That was formative in my career, and it continues to influence me to this day. And after that, I moved into technology and helping startups launch. I worked for Innovation Works for a little bit, and then worked for a consulting firm that worked with startups on market strategy. So I'm always all about the consumer and the market, and really making sure that when we're designing something, we're designing it for the end user.
So your technology can be used to organize volunteers for other needs besides rescuing food. So what else can it be used for?
Right. So now you're talking about, technology platform 2.0, which we're already working on. So before COVID, we were already working on transforming the platform so we can move people. So the best analogy that I can give to this is, we're going from Uber Eats to actual Uber. Kudos to our friends in Uber. But really moving people who have transit and mobility challenges that are have no other recourse for transportation. So let's say, for example, our region has one of the worst, maternal outcome rates, right? And us, making sure that, mothers, pregnant women can get to their hospital visits, their doctor visits pre-birth is a big, will impact that significantly. And so if you are, if you don't have access to transportation, then you can't get to your prenatal appointments. So those are the things that we can do with transforming this technology to, from moving people to from moving food to moving people, because I would certainly give, a mom to be a ride on a weekend or, even on a weekday.
Sure.
That's what I love about this technology, that you can take this and you can help so many people. It's just disrupting so many things. And I know you're probably freaking out a lot of industries that are out there. And I just think that's absolutely amazing. And just thinking about just going back and thinking about how you started this thing, and you said to yourself, you wanted to do something that made a difference, and just totally rolling the dice on that. Is there any point that you ever said to yourself, oh, I made the wrong choice? Or is it something where you're like, man, I made the best choice in the world?
It's I don't know if I think of it in that way at all. It's almost like, if we don't do it, who will?
Exactly.
It's so hard. Like I said, I think one of the things I've always said is, once you see possibilities, you can't unsee it. How can I sleep at night and say, oh, forget it. I'm just not going to do it. It's worth a try at least, and see where it goes. And
I think so many people, are in that point in their life where they have an idea to do something, but to take the step the way you took that step can be really tough. And I think maybe you serve as like some inspiration to somebody out there to say, no, I can actually try that step and ride that wave and see where it goes. I just think that's just so cool.
I know. And it's, the MVP is the thing, right? Start small.
Exactly. So what have you learned the most so far? Obviously having to ramp this fast. In some ways, this epidemic has been a good thing, as you said, because it's actually helped you accelerate to get things done that you were trying to get done. What else has this done to really put a razor sharp focus on Food Rescue Hero and 412 in general?
I think that, there's one thing about crisis that is, I wouldn't say positive, but one thing that crisis does is bring out adrenaline and, our fight or flight response, right? And I think a lot of this has fueled in my team and in a lot of people that fight response. And it's what's happening now is, people are like, okay, now what can I do? What can I do? Especially now you're trapped at home, you're feeling like you need to do something. And this really is the easiest way to act on that. Right. And then internally, our team has just, this last month just been, I actually want to, give them a moment of just respite, because they've been on this fight response for this last month consistently. And so, they need some time to kind of calm down a little bit, but,
Absolutely.
But we are getting to that point where that acute response is pretty much done. And now we're looking at, how do we now move forward?
Very cool. Very cool. Audrey, we have a question here in the chat. Does 412 go out into the Westmoreland County and surrounding regions as well too?
Yeah, so we are in Allegheny and the Collar counties.
And so do you need help in 724? That's a question.
Yeah, we always need volunteers and partners in those areas for sure.
Okay, so they just need to go to the app and they can sign up.
If you're a volunteer, you can download the app and sign up. And if you want to partner, just email info@412foodrescue.org.
Because your app is free, because it knows where you are, and it only brings you, you can select what areas you want to go to. So you can kind of pinpoint it, and you can pinpoint it to your schedule as well too, which is pretty rad. So you can say, I'm free on Saturday mornings, and so it'll do that. So that way then you can really make it fit your schedule.
Yes.
And so BK is now sharing the screen for your website here so everyone can see that, which we're pretty excited about.
So Leah, as we start to wind down here, I mean, people are very proud of you. I mean, I think that that this community is pretty committed to supporting other people, but you're an entrepreneur and you're doing a lot of what we call social impact. And it's allowed, you might know this or not, but it's allowed other people to start to think about what is a business and what does it mean to be a business and have a social impact as an outcome. So you've been a great role model. I know that you've been asked to speak around the country and you've had notable commendations in terms of your work and met so many people in the course of the last few years. We are all very proud of you. And, so your success is really our success because you're actually putting 412 on the map. So we can't thank you enough for that. But you are an entrepreneur. I mean, and then just like many people who are working in pure tech, you're an entrepreneur, which has a lot of trials and tribulations. So you want to wrap up and just talk about where that has taken you a little bit, or maybe some candid comments about what it means to be an entrepreneur and do things that have this kind of impact?
Yeah. I mean, the entrepreneur part, it's I have the same experiences as anyone who is an entrepreneur. I think, Audrey, you see many of these moments of, just, I hate this, I'm going to give up, as to Jonathan's point, there are many days like that, or you won't believe the conversation I had with this funder, especially as a woman raising money, the things you hear that are just, you just think are stories, but you actually hear them said to you. So it's not unique. One of the books I love that I read early on is, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Having these conversations are hard. My skin 5 years ago, so much thicker now, so much, and I've, been able to understand what I need to listen to and what I don't. And, and just how to have, real blinders for certain things just to keep on moving forward. So the entrepreneurial journey is not unique in that sense. What does keep me going is, and stops me from throwing the towel is that, the same thing I said earlier, if we don't do this, who will, and what will happen if we don't try.
Absolutely. Audrey, we have one question here from Kenny Chen.
Yeah, why don't you
use the tech councils? Yeah. I know Leah knows him as well too, so I'll read this out so we have it. So Leah, this is from our guy Kenny Chen here. He says, Leah, you've been a phenomenal leader, and I agree, not just locally, but also on a global scale, especially with your continued work with the United Nations and international partners. What are the trends, challenges, and needs you're seeing in the other cities and countries you engage with, and how do they compare with what we're experiencing here in Pittsburgh?
So we are not yet in other countries. I mean, Canada is another country, but
Yes,
um,
it is.
yeah, it is. I think I think the best way for me to answer that is that, you know, Pittsburgh, by far and away, has, you know, a really different mindset in terms of being there for your neighbor. Now, I didn't grow up here, so I don't really know Mr. Rogers, but I heard that's that's a big influence in the city, and I really honestly don't think this would have taken off as far and as fast as it has if it hasn't been for Pittsburgh. Really. And the world needed to see Pittsburgh happen before it could have the courage to do it as well. So the other cities are showing, you know, this traction. LA and San Francisco, of course, and Vancouver and Manassas, Virginia are just performing really, really well. So that's what I see, is that, you know, Pittsburgh has started this, what I hope to see as a domino effect.
Listen, we are proud to know you. People here care about your work. Everyone has rallied around you, and I know more will. So if you want to contribute, you can contribute financially, you can volunteer, you can go to her website, you can reach out to Leah and her team. They are working round the clock, and it's one of those Pittsburgh proud moments from one of our local rock stars.
Absolutely.
So on that, thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is just remind everyone that we have sponsors. That's Huntington Bank and AT&T. We thank them for their leadership and commitment, as well as AT&T's commitment to 412 Food Rescue, as well as the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank and related. So Monday at 1 o'clock, we will have Dr. Lou Falo from the University of Pittsburgh. And as I mentioned earlier, he is one of the leaders in helping to develop a new vaccine and to combat COVID-19, so that one day we all get back to hopefully hugging one another and pressing some flesh. But I want everyone to be safe and have a great weekend. And this is Audrey Russo.
And before we hit the end button here, we've got to remind everybody that on Wednesday, the 22nd, we have our first virtual happy hour, and we are raising money for 412 Food Rescue and Beyond the Laptop. So hope to see everybody virtually with a virtual drink in your hands on Wednesday. Go to our website, pghtech.org, and you can sign up for it there.
Great. And thank you, everyone.
You're the best, Leah. You're the best.